Release system is armed.
Vehicle has transitioned to autonomous mode. We are go for launch. 3, 2, 1. Ascent operations will continue on CD1.
T plus 1 minute. Max Q.
Rico. Stage separation.
Bearing separation confirmed.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to Firefly Aerospace's stream here. We are looking at Flight 5 of Firefly's Alpha rocket. The mission's called Noise of Summer, and we are currently T-minus 30 minutes away from a liftoff currently scheduled for 9:04 p.m. local time out there on the West Coast. Tonight, we are working with a 30-minute window. My name is John Galloway. I'm with NSF, and NSF is providing live stream services for Firefly this evening. But y'all know how this goes. I don't just think that I'm going to sit here and talk about the rockets. I get people who know a lot more about rockets than I do to join me. And so with me once again from Firefly, I've got Morgan Fiane. Morgan, how are you doing here? You're a composite structure engineer with Firefly. How's it going?
It is good. It's good to be back.
It's good to be back. Yeah. All right. Folks, if you weren't here last time, Morgan, tell us a little bit about what you do at Firefly.
Yeah, so I am a primary structures responsible engineer. So what that means is that for the Alpha sitting on the pad and for our development medium-sized launch vehicle, I am responsible for the kind of main skeletal structure of the rocket. Rockets, plural.
Like the big rocket part, like the body of the rocket that everything gets bolted to, the engines, the propellant gets stored inside, like the main structures.
Yeah. The stuff that holds everything together and holds the propellants, all that good stuff. I've probably gone spelunking in every single tank that you see sitting out there at the pad.
Good deal. Folks, hey, right here at the top of the show, if you were watching previously, a couple days ago, we had a scrub. And so we're going to start off talking a little bit about that scrub, what went on, and what we've done to make sure that we're go for launch this evening. So Morgan, tell us a little bit about the previous scrub and what was going on.
Yeah, so y'all may have heard mission control say helium, and I know helium's kind of a hot topic, a little bit of a buzzword. It's not what caused the abort. We've got multiple sensors and gauges watching Alpha at all times, a lot of kind of like automatic health checks for the vehicle, and the system aborts if one of those sensors is reading out of range.
Gotcha. So this wasn't like a person sitting there with a red button or anything like that?
No.
This was the rocket watching its own health and saying, hey, whoa, what's up with this one sensor?
Yeah, exactly. So we had one sensor that was reading off nominally on one of the ground support. One of the ground support sensors was reading off nominally.
Right.
And that one sensor caused both aborts that we had on Monday night.
Okay.
So yeah, the team fixed the issue in the last day or so and did some additional testing, and we're ready to go today.
Good deal. I know a lot of people, like I read comments, I read chat, a lot of people were super surprised that Firefly was able to go for a recycle there. We had that 30-minute window, and people saw the scrub there at the beginning, and they were like, oh, it's over. And then the team went for a recycle. What is it that allowed that to happen? Like training, preparedness? What's going on there? Yeah,
it's a combination of a lot of different things. We could talk about the type of propellant we use, how we load the propellants on the vehicle, but mostly what it comes down to, in my opinion, is the size of Alpha,
right?
And like you said, the preparedness of the team. So like they have been trained for this. They're on the ball, and so that's just kind of part of the requirements of being a launch operator in space.
Right.
Is that, hey, we've got a 30-minute window. You have to make the most of every minute.
Absolutely. And we certainly did last time, even though we didn't get off the pad. But here we are this evening getting ready to go at it again. So we're currently, where are we at? Coming up on 25 minutes here. We're going to talk a little bit about where you might be able to see this. Remember, this is launching from Slick 2, SLC, Space Launch Complex 2, out at Vandenberg Space Force Base. Now you know the rocket, where the rocket is. Tell us where you're watching from, because you might be able to see this. With that 9:04 p.m. liftoff, what might people be able to see, Morgan?
Yeah, so just like our last attempt, we're launching at a time where you can see something called the twilight effect or the jellyfish effect. We kind of have the perfect conditions for it tonight. It's when the rocket exhaust plume is visible in the upper atmosphere and it's illuminated by that setting sun, so it's visible for longer periods.
Gotcha. So the sun has sort of gone down and it's getting dark on the ground, but the sun's still shining over the edge of the planet. You get something up high enough, like a rocket that's spewing exhaust, and the sun sort of lights that up and gives that show in the sky. Look at this. We've got, this is a previous launch, actually. This was Flight 3, Victus Nox, taken all the way from the Sonoran Desert over in Arizona by Sean Parker. This might be what you see, slightly different conditions, slightly different trajectory as well. But hey, what do you have to lose? Whenever we get the launch going here, you see it take off, head on outside. If you're on the West Coast, look out to the west and see if you see something in the sky, lit up rocket exhaust. If you get a photo of it, tag us on social media. It's Firefly_space if you're over on X, the Everything app. And we would love to see how y'all experience the launch this evening. Also, as we go through the evening here, we're going to be looking for some audience questions. So tag us at Firefly Space on the YouTube channel and put your questions in. No way we're going to be able to get to them all. But if we see a couple good ones in there, we'll try to work them into the show as we have time. So where are we at time-wise? Just under 24 minutes. Excellent. Let's talk about this a little bit, Morgan. What are we launching this evening? We've got multiple payloads on here. What's on board the rocket?
Yeah. So today we've got 8 payloads for NASA VCLS. Just like you've explained your acronyms, I'll try to explain mine.
I appreciate it.
It's just part of my lingo. VCLS stands for Venture Class Launch Services.
Gotcha.
So what we're launching for them are these 8 payloads that were selected through their CubeSat launch initiative. So what that initiative does is it kind of gives educational institutions and nonprofits a low-cost access to space.
Gotcha. We'll get a little bit more information on that coming up later in the show. We've got some information. I think there's some interviews that came through there with people that were putting together payloads. But what an opportunity to be a university that has the access to put something into space on a program like this that NASA's providing.
Oh, yeah. I would have killed for an opportunity like this when I was in college. Are you kidding? Yeah.
Good deal. And another interesting thing here, the payloads on the way to orbit, they're small sats. They're very small. They're sort of CubeSat size, a couple used on the CubeSats, but we're dropping them right off where they're going to be doing their missions. They're not going to be propelling themselves out to other places.
Yes.
Firefly is putting them right in that orbit where they'll perform their science.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Let's see here. You can see on the screen, folks. Oh, actually, we're going to highlight it for you. It's a little foggy out there at Vandenberg, but we can show you what is behind the veil of fog. Some fuel levels there as well. This is really cool because this is driven by live telemetry. Some of the programming team over here at Firefly put this together. And I want y'all to watch. You see how it's all 100% right now, but the LOX tanks actually get topped off. And so you may see those numbers go 99, 98, then back up again. That's because they're topping off the LOX, right, Morgan?
Yeah, so we fill our LOX to where we fill it comparatively warm, and it's cooling off while it's there. It's boiling off.
Right.
So as we boil off, we lose mass. So you'll see that number flicker from 100 a little bit lower, and then we'll top back up.
Gotcha. All right. So be on the lookout for the... Oh, it just did.
There it is.
It did. It went down to 99 and back up again. Normal thing there as we get that live telemetry off the vehicle, and we can sort of see through the fog, provide y'all some X-ray vision all the way into the propellant tanks.
This is the future.
Hey, the close-up cameras are good too. So what we've got coming up, folks, is a go, no-go poll you're going to hear from the launch net. It's going to happen in just a couple minutes. Morgan, tell us a little bit about this go, no-go poll, like what's going on.
Yeah, so the LC, the launch conductor, will ask for a go or no-go from 20 or more kind of subsystem, payload, range, operations leads, and it's their chance to kind of look at their emotional support data, like I like looking at mine, and kind of say, yes, we're ready for launch, or no, we need some time to troubleshoot.
Gotcha. So we are going to listen in just a second here, but the thing to remember, this is sort of the human in the loop part of the launch, but every voice that you hear is backed up by an entire team of people that worked on these systems, worked on these structures, and are sort of like supporting the person whose voice you might hear. So it's not just 20 people involved with the rocket, there's a lot more Fireflies behind the team.
If you need to raise concerns, please hail the launch director on CD1. Otherwise, the conversation should take place on LVN or AnomalyNet as appropriate. In the event of an abort, the protocol is to call abort, abort, abort on CD1. A hold is called by range support personnel. The launch director will call abort, and the vehicle controller will abort the auto sequence. In the event of a hang fire, only the launch director can make the call. The LD will announce VC hang fire abort on CD1. The vehicle controller will then use the hang fire abort button on the autos page. A hang fire is called. The vehicle controller will transition the flight computer into emergency shutdown through a direct vehicle state update in the GUI.
keep listening in here, folks.
This is the launch conductor on the countdown net with a ready report for terminal count. RC,
Go.
FSW,
Go.
GSW,
Go.
GNC,
Go.
Prop 1,
Go.
Fluids 1,
Go.
Structures,
Go.
AVI,
Go.
FTS,
Go.
GC,
Go.
BC,
Go.
Payload,
Go.
Mission Manager,
Go.
OO,
Go.
FISPO,
Go.
IFCO,
Go.
OSM,
Go.
ROC,
Go.
Safety Official,
Go.
Chief Engineer,
Go.
Launch Director,
Go. Go.
LDA.
LDA. Go.
We are a go for terminal count.
CD1, Slick 2, A2, engine terminal pre-chill auto complete.
Good copy.
All right, and there you have it, folks. Alpha is go for launch. We got an entire green board. Actually, I got some green on me there, I guess, but I'll take it. All of the stations polling go, good to go for launch there. So as we go through the rest of the count here, let's go ahead and look at how Alpha's sort of put together, the different parts of the rocket, how many stages, the engines, that sort of stuff, shall we? Morgan, tell us a little bit about what Alpha's comprised of.
Yeah, so Alpha is a two-stage rocket. It can carry about 1,000 or more kilograms to LEO, which is low Earth orbit. It's a little under 100 feet tall, so 97 feet almost exactly, and it's 6 feet in diameter. So it's the largest vehicle in the small lift class. And how it can achieve that is, well, A, it's being driven by 4 of our Reaver engines and 1 of our Lightning engines. So those are all, designed and manufactured, tested, built, everything in-house.
In-house.
Exactly, yeah. And they're also all what's called a tap-off cycle engine. Very cool stuff. A more simple engine in terms of how those turbopumps run. And that's just so they're more reliable, easier to manufacture, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's really interesting, but I want to hear about the structures.
Yes. I have. I've faked it till I maked it, talking about propulsion for long enough. Yes.
Also peering through the fog here again, y'all, so it's getting tough to see the rocket, but carbon fiber composites.
Yes, that is my bread and butter. They're strong, lightweight, all that good stuff, so they can lift heavier payloads at a lower cost. And I've brought back, this time, my forbidden ice cream sandwich. And just to show everybody kind of once again, this is a test coupon, again, so it's not directly representative of what's actually flying on a rocket.
Yep.
But a lot of my structures look like this.
Right.
So the kind of cookies of the ice cream sandwich are really thin but really strong layers and layers and layers of carbon fiber.
Right.
And then the inside is a foam core that provides stiffness and also kind of like thermal shielding for the propellants inside. And I've upgraded my prop setup today. This is a tap test coin. I never leave home without it, and that's probably the nerdiest thing that I will say in a while. Basically, what I use this for when I go spelunking into tanks is you hit this coin on pieces of carbon fiber when you're listening for things like potential damage or inclusions, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Can we do that on the can you tap it, or is it going to be too loud?
I mean, I can try.
Give it a try real quick. Let's see what it sounds like.
All right, let's hear.
Like live structure testing here on the live stream.
That noise plays in my dreams. I do this way too much. But yeah, that's called tap testing. It's NDI, so non-destructive inspections.
Right.
It's one of the many forms at NDI that we do at Firefly. But when I do inspections post-test and pre-test, I'm actually hitting a metal coin on composite. It's very scientific.
Gotcha. One more really quick thing that I wanted to hit on. Excellent. Got a little update in my ear there, folks. One more thing that I wanted to hit on really quickly. I heard some people, like I said, I read comments, and folks said, oh, we talked about the 24-hour turnaround, how it was in the barn, not attached to the rocket 24 hours. And so a bunch of people were like, hey, well, did you roll it back after the scrub? So did we? Did we actually put that back in the barn and reattach it, or how does that turn out?
No, we didn't. So we already completed transport and mating ahead of the previous attempt.
Right.
So yeah, there's no need to kind of redo that unless we needed to take it down for longer periods.
Gotcha. So a lot of things still going on here, but with a short turnaround, just a couple of days here, no reason to completely disassemble the rocket, take the payload off the top of it, and do that all again. But in the last couple hours, they have been reconfiguring the pad for flight, begin the fueling, and all that sort of stuff that's well underway now. But we're now less than 15 minutes away from flight. I'm going to wait for the fuel overlay to come up again at some point. As we get under 15 minutes, or we are under 15 minutes here, let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen, because a lot of stuff's going to happen fast.
Yeah, so some of you might be able to see that little blurb that just popped up in the bottom right, but right now we are starting our stage 1 engine chill.
Right.
So we're pulling locks through our Reaver LOX pumps, and that's in order to kind of chill them down and make sure that, just like last time, we're not surprising them with any comparatively like super cold fluid.
Temperature changes from
Any
like
big
ambient to super cold.
Yeah, exactly. So we're making sure those are ready for operation. We're starting kind of TTEB checkouts, TTEB being our green igniter,
Right.
Our igniter fluid that, just is dying to be on fire.
It just wants to be on fire.
Very relatable. We're also looking for spin start verifications. We're looking for, the fan favorite is the TVC wiggles.
TVC wiggles?
Yeah.
I think chat saw some TVC wiggles last time that I didn't see. So folks, we're going to try to get that camera up here in just a second. If you see the TVC wiggles happen, let us know in the chat, because there's a lot of stuff for us to keep an eye on here. But help us out. If you see the TVC wiggles happening, let us know. Apparently chat went crazy last time.
Yeah, I didn't see any, but they saw some.
Yeah.
I missed it. But yeah, the TVC wiggles are really fun. They should be starting at T-minus 13 minutes, so coming up pretty soon here, you should start to see those Reavers kind of wiggle around.
I just want to stare at the engines, but we got other stuff to talk about.
Me too. So yeah, I'll move down the list. A lot of this might seem a little repetitive. There's only so many ways to skin a cat.
That's okay.
But yeah, at T-minus 8 minutes, we'll start fuel pre-press. At T-minus 7 minutes, we'll do stage 2 TVC wiggles.
Right.
And we do have a camera in there, just like last time, so you might catch those too. At T-minus 6 minutes, Alpha will transition to internal power.
Okay.
So right now, it's plugged into ground side power, but we will need to disconnect that when we leave the ground. So we do it at T-minus 6 minutes, kind of to give Alpha a little bit of time to get it under its own power and make sure that everything's healthy.
Right.
This whole time, we're executing over 300, commands and health checks, most of them automated, if not all of them automated. So yeah, we'll disconnect Alpha from ground side power, and then it's kind of on its own in terms of that.
That's sort of like, all right, Rocket, you need to be able to operate without being connected to the ground, without being connected to power. So you don't do it right when liftoff occurs. You wanted to give it some chance to be on its own, but you want to provide it that support right up until, I guess, T-minus 6 minutes.
Yeah, we might be kicking it out of the house or off the planet even. Get off my planet.
Get off my planet. Nice.
But yeah, we want to make sure it's healthy before we send it.
Yep.
So at T-minus 5 minutes and 45 seconds, actually, you'll see those collar arms begin to open.
Right.
Those collar arms are kind of like a little necklace around Alpha's kind of lower stage 2 LOX tank. And what that does is it kind of supports the rocket at the kind of Oh, okay. Yeah, they're open.
It looks like you can see them there. You can see them open right there below the frost line, sort of sticking out to the side like crab pinchers. I mean, right?
I will never be able to unsee that. Thank you.
Sorry.
But yeah, those collar arms open because we're about to send the rocket, and pretty soon here, that entire strong back will actually start to retract. And that's so that it's kind of out of the way for the rocket to lift off. I don't know if we've got a camera on them. Oh yeah, there's one.
We have cameras, Morgan.
We do have. I know you have cameras.
We have cameras.
We got cameras with cameras.
I like it.
But yeah, that strong back will pull back, and just all of that extra support we're giving Alpha, it won't be needed when it's time to send it. So we kind of cleared out of the way.
All right. What did we say last time? The non-required loading?
Yes. I knew you wouldn't let that one go.
I like it too much. Like, I like hanging out with the engineers here, but it wasn't wind. It was non-required loading.
It's non-required loading. If we don't need to load Alpha, then why should we?
There you go. And a couple things will happen after that. We're still watching for that strong back to retract. That's actually going to pull some of those umbilicals a little tight. Not pulling them all the way off now, but they'll see them sort of stretch out there on the screen. And after that, I think we get into arming the FTS, right? Yeah.
So after you see those umbilicals pull tight and their QDs are kind of getting ready to separate, we'll arm the FTS at T-minus 4 minutes. The FTS is the flight termination system. It's kind of a normal safety thing that's required on all rockets.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Then we'll see some bleeds, get some air out of the line, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's what's coming up.
Yeah, that's what's coming up.
All right. And then, folks, we are rapidly approaching T-minus 10 minutes here. And what we are going to see after liftoff is going to happen really quickly as well. So, Morgan, let's talk through that really quickly, too.
Yeah. So we call our T0 not when we light our engines, but when we actually release the clamps that are holding Alpha to the pad,
Right.
and we let it go. So we'll actually light our 4 reavers at T-minus 2 seconds. We'll have our stage 1 ignition, and then at T-minus 0, we will open up the clamps, and Alpha will start to lift off.
Gotcha. And that's when T0 happens.
Yeah, that is T0. And then we'll be burning those stage 1 engines for 2+ minutes,
Right.
but at T plus 54 seconds, we'll actually hit Mach 1, so we'll go supersonic. And then at T plus 1 minute and 5 seconds, we will hit something called max Q.
Max Q.
Max Q.
What, you know something we never talked about what the Q stands for? It's just a
Maximum
shortcut.
aerodynamic pressure. Yeah,
There's no Q in that.
There's no Q in that, but you know what? Engineers and mathematicians love to throw letters in our calculations because math wasn't hard enough.
So we talked a little bit about that last time, but
Yeah.
as a structures person, max Q is definitely an important part of the flight for you.
Yes, completely unbiased answer from your local structures engineer. Max Q is the point where the vehicle experiences the most kind of loading and stress and strain, whatever you want to call it, that it will experience at any point during flight, because you're getting this crossover. You can probably Google a very nerdy graph if you want to.
You have to say nerdy graph.
I have to say nerdy graph. It's a crossover point between static and dynamic pressure. And at least for a rocket, it's different between rockets and airplanes. This happens when we're accelerating faster and faster out of the atmosphere, but that atmosphere is getting thinner and thinner.
Gotcha. We mentioned it last time, like you think, oh, well, the maximum pressure is just when it's going the fastest, right? When it has the highest speed or whatever. But it doesn't really work that way because remember, the rocket is getting out of the atmosphere. And as it raises up out of the atmosphere gets thinner, so there's less aerodynamic forces acting on the rocket. So it is that sort of point where I almost feel like we need to show this on the next live stream.
Yeah, we really should.
The max Q graph.
We should grab a max Q graph.
Nice. Anyways, folks, we are continuing to tick down here. Max Q, an important part. You'll be wiping.
That is the part where you will probably hear me like, whew, when it's actually going, because that's the part where my structures have done their job.
Right.
So we size them to be able to handle max Q, but we can't size them to handle much more than that because then it'd be super heavy.
Gotcha. All right. And then after that, you're going to see some perfectly normal things. Stage separation will occur. We'll see a stage 2 ignition when that lightning fires up and starts pushing the second stage the rest of the way into orbit. Fairing jettison. Totally normal thing as well. Don't need to be carrying the fairing along with you anymore. Yeah,
it's just extra mass. It's done its job protecting the payload from the PPF to the pad, and then from the pad to space using the ECS.
All right.
Sorry, that was a lot of acronyms back to back to back.
Did we say how that's? Wait, we said ECS and PPF, Payload Processing Facility, and ECS is Environmental
Control System.
Control Systems.
Yeah, nice. There we go.
We've done this a few times.
We've practiced a couple times.
All right, and that's going to continue going on for till T plus 8 minutes and 10 seconds when that second engine cuts off. And then we're going to have a long coast phase. And that is going to go all the way up until 44 minutes and 33 seconds when the first payloads will be deployed. That actually is going to take over 10 minutes, almost 11 minutes, just over 11 minutes for all the payloads to come out. Now, real quick, we know these payloads come off because we have telemetry coming down from the rocket. But in order to get that telemetry down, we need to send it somewhere. It needs to end up on the ground somehow, and that's where a ground station comes in. A little bit earlier, I heard on the sort of chatter that there might have been an issue with one of the ground stations. So some of the telemetry might not be coming down, but it wasn't a blocker for launch. So just because that one ground station wasn't there might not stop us from launching, but we may have a couple dropouts in the telemetry. Is that right?
Yeah, so if you don't have line of sight to a ground station, and this is including when you're kind of over the horizon of the Earth, over the curvature of the surface, you can't transmit your data until you have that line of sight. But like you said, we've been having an issue with one of our ground stations today, so basically what happens is we have to wait until we pass over the next one.
Gotcha. But there's multiple ground stations. It's not like just there's one location that you pass over and all the data comes down.
Yeah.
As the rocket goes around the globe, there's a couple different ground stations it can downlink to. So we'll see which one of those ground stations gets our telemetry and our updates there.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to stay live throughout most of that time and continue to share updates and other information about Firefly with you. We're going to talk a little bit about the NASA payloads that are on this mission, where they came from, where they go, hey, there goes the Strongback, it looks like.
I was going to say, don't you dare say Cotton Eye Joe.
I wasn't going to, but then you did, so.
Man, I walked right into that one.
You set yourself up. You played yourself. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about Firefly's upcoming mission to the moon, Blue Ghost. But I wanted to get one more question from the audience in here. I've got a couple more minutes. So this was a good one. Some very keen eyes out there. Why is Alpha's fairing and upper portion painted white? Last time it was silver and black. This time it's actually all nice and clean looking white.
Yeah, good eyes. Yeah, so we found through previous flight data that we were losing a little bit of propellant mass on stage 2 during its coast phase. Specifically, our cryo propellant, our cryo LOX was boiling off.
Boiling off.
Yeah, so we were losing the capability of that propellant to kind of take us further.
You're losing the propellant.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So what we figured was, by looking through data, we found that out, and then we decided in order to further optimize stage 2 and reclaim that propellant, we painted the thing white. Like, I'm sure, you know...
That's the thing.
When you wear a black shirt outside, you get hotter. When you wear a white shirt, you're less hot.
You're a little bit cooler.
Yeah, the color white just kind of bounces those wavelengths from the sun right off, so they never transform into heat, and they don't heat up your shirt. In this case, they don't heat up our rocket skin.
The rocket skin. Now, that explains the tankage, like why the second stage that actually holds the propellant, the LOX specifically there, is white. But why is the fairing white?
We thought it would look a little goofy if it went white, silver, white, black. So we thought it would look a lot cleaner if we just painted everything white. And hey, maybe we'll, you know, bounce off some more light wavelengths just for funsies.
So there you have it. Some thermal management with the white on the second stage and some fashion for the white on the... It would look super clean.
She had a bit of a makeover. She looks good. She's looking her best.
It really does look clean. Hey, shout out to the Next Spaceflight Discord for putting that question in my inbox. There's some super fans over there that really show up for the Firefly launches.
Yeah, I'm surprised somebody caught that. The color change.
It looks too good. It looks good.
It does look a little too good.
Yeah. All right, folks. The clock continues to tick. You can see the rocket. Look how alive the rocket looks. But we are coming up on T-minus 3 minutes. There's going to be a launch conductor no-go poll. We got another poll coming up here.
They're fun.
You're going to hear the launch conductor hear or ask the chief engineer, the launch director, and the range operations commander for their final goes and commits to launch. Now, I don't want to talk over them because this sort of final go for launch.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and listen in on the launch net.
Ten seconds to final cryohelium press.
T-minus 2 minutes. This is the final commit for launch. Chief engineer.
C is go. Send it.
Launch director.
Go.
Rock.
Rock, range green.
We are go for launch.
And there you heard it, folks. They are go for launch. Less than 2 minutes now for Flight 5. There's all the Fireflies watching nearby here in Austin, ready for this to go. There you go.
Yeah, yes.
Well, let's go ahead and listen in on the sounds of the pad and the control room, and we will see you on the other side.
Helium QD is venting shortly.
Use pullout arms.
T-minus 60 seconds.
They are in work.
T-minus 30 seconds. Alpha transitions to autonomous mode.
Alarms off.
Normal stage 1 TVC motion.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Operator transition to ground. That's it.
I have fire at the MLS.
You're good.
Can confirm. I see no fires in the fluid.
Vehicle supersonic.
They're on the MLS.
Max Q.
You can really see those exhaust gases expanding there.
Yeah, as we get into thinner and thinner atmosphere.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
Visual confirmation of the thinning atmosphere as it pulls away from the planet.
MLS fire appears to be out. I see no other fires on the pad.
Look at that.
Stage
Nico.
separation.
Stage 2 ignition. Chamber pressure looks nominal.
They're the fairings.
They're the fairings.
Yeah, you can see them fall away.
Look at that. We get a little jellyfish.
Oh, wow, that's so pretty. Just a little hint of a jellyfish.
Now's the time to go outside and see if y'all can see this, folks. So now we've gotten all the way through that fairing jettison, and we have a couple minutes until we get that second engine cut off. But the track's out there. Look at this.
Oh, man. What a great view.
It really is.
Yeah, so lightning will fire for a couple minutes, but we will see SECO, which is second engine cutoff, at T plus 8 minutes and 10 seconds.
So we've got just about 4 more minutes here. Now, a lot of times we see the little ice sort of coming off. You see little pieces of ice and stuff like that. Remember, all this is chilled down, and ice does build up. I think it's little pieces of fog that it's taken with us. This looks like it's the forward-facing payload cam.
It is, I believe. That is a payload right up front, I think.
Excellent.
But yeah, all that ice gets nominally either melted on the way through the atmosphere or shaken off during flight to where that added mass isn't any hit to stage 2.
Makes good sense. It's something we see on a lot of launches.
Yeah.
Still tracking it down. I just love the colors on this shot. This really is one of the things, you draw a rocket as a kid, and you have the pencil flame coming out of the bottom, right? And
Yeah.
once you get up there and there's no atmosphere to push that flame back into that sort of pencil rocket exhaust shape, it just goes sort of straight out the sides there.
It almost looks like one of those little comic book, kapow.
Nice.
It's kind of the shape it reminds me of.
So still have it from the ground, and we've got video from the vehicle there. Coming up on T plus 6 minutes. And 6 minutes, 10 seconds. We've got about 2 minutes left in the burn of the Lightning engine.
Man, I wish we could hear it.
I'm telling you, microphone on the structure.
Microphone on the structure.
Pick up the
It's
vibrations.
Genius.
Yeah.
You should work for Firefly. Why aren't you in the structures department, John?
I am right now. I'm working with Firefly, so.
I love the glow as well. You can see it kind of climb up that nozzle extension as it gets hotter.
Yep. And they've still got it going downrange. That's got to be one of the ground trackers out there, Vandenberg. Coming up on 7:10, 7 minutes and 10 seconds after liftoff. So about 1 minute left in the burn. Now, I don't know exactly how long we're going to have this link to the ground station with the live video, but we're going to continue showing it to you as long as we're getting it here. There's those payloads again. Well on their way to space.
Should be coming up on Seco.
Seco. Nominal orbit insertion.
I'm shaking a little bit.
There you go. Well, you heard right from the launch net, nominal orbit insertion. I do want to point out the video, we don't exactly time that video coming down, so I wouldn't look at the exact timing of the video versus the time we saw it come off. It does take a little bit of time for that video to get down from the rocket, go through the ground stations, make it all the way over to the video servers, then we get it encoded and we send it back out. So that exact timing, because, oh, look at that. That's cool. Is that the Terminator? The limb of the Earth there on the right-hand side? We had a little rotation there. What, you know something? There you go. All right, you saw it sort of freeze. No pun intended. I mean, it's not a pun. It's actually ice.
It does freeze.
The video feed freezing up there. It looks like we lost the link to the ground station, but you heard a couple different things before we got to that 36-minute coast phase. The biggest one was nominal orbit insertion call out on the launch net.
That is a good thing to hear.
All right. So the important thing here is that the mission is not over. We are still coasting in this coast phase. We still have payload deployment coming up. We're going to stay live all the way through payload deployment and share as much of that with you can. Remember how the ground stations work. If we get the link back, we'll try to show it to you. If not, we might not have that visual to show you, but we will be standing by for the confirmation. And the other thing is, just because it doesn't go over the first ground station, or we don't have that first ground station, we might be able to get over the next ground station. It doesn't just pass one ground station on its trip around the planet, where Firefly Alpha Flight 5 has put it on its way. It looks like we might have acquired it again for a second here. That's just too cool.
That is so cool.
Hey, folks, a quick reminder here. Again, the feed may come in and out, but you know something? I would argue that we show you as much as we can get, because I know what the rocket nerd's like. But if you caught this anywhere, if you've got a shot from your cell phone, it doesn't even have to be a fancy camera or anything like that. The best camera is the one you took a picture of the jellyfish with. So if you've got something, I'm going to listen for 10 seconds instead of talking about posting on social media. Really don't want to talk over anybody, but I think that might have been expected loss of signal.
Yeah, that might have been LOS.
In 10 seconds. You know when you're talking and then somebody's talking in your ear, sometimes you don't quite get it. I think that was expected LOS in 10 seconds. But if you took some of those photos, tag us over on social media. It's Firefly_space on x.com. Now we've got the payloads well on their way, Morgan. Tell us a little bit more about the payloads, where they came from. A lot of different institutions, organizations here, providing payloads to be sent to space.
Yeah, again, they were all selected through NASA's CubeSat launch initiative. But yeah, those 8 payloads kind of come from all over the states. There's a couple from a bunch of universities.
Yep.
There's a couple from NASA themselves. Oh yeah, there's a video.
There you go.
Yeah, so our first one's from the University of Washington. Yeah, there it is. Another from NASA Ames. We've got Teachers in Space.
The Serenity payload.
Yeah, we've got 2 more from Johnson Space Center in Houston.
With much more difficult names.
We've got another from the University of Arizona, the next one from the University of Kansas, and then payload 8 out of 8 is from the University of Maine. So yeah, again, these 8 CubeSats come from universities, nonprofits, and NASA centers, and they were all selected through NASA's CubeSat launch initiative.
Right. All right. So a little bit more information on that. The best way to learn about how NASA actually selects those payloads is to hear straight from NASA. So we've got a little bit of a video there for you. But folks, again, I know the rocket just launched. Stick with us. We're going to continue sharing updates with you in whatever we get that we can share visual-wise. But we also have a special guest who's going to be talking about the Blue Ghost mission, Firefly's lunar lander. Let's roll this NASA video. We're going to be right back.
Part of NASA's mission is to inspire the next generation of explorers and to innovate and increase the depths of human knowledge of our planet and the universe. The CubeSat launch initiative is providing opportunities for students and educators to experiment with technology and send their missions to space. No formal degree is required.
For the CubeSat launch initiative, we get most of our applications come through universities and other educational centers. We get high schools, middle schools, as even elementary schools. We get NASA centers that do different CubeSats, as well as nonprofit organizations.
So what is a CubeSat? A CubeSat is a type of nanosatellite. These small spacecraft come in several sizes and are based on the standard CubeSat unit, meaning about 10 by 10 by 10 centimeters or 1U. They are small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, but can be stacked together to form slightly larger, more capable spacecraft.
We don't limit your science. It's up to the teams to decide what science they want to do. They propose it in their proposal, and we go from there. A lot of what we've seen is imaging, communication, and things of that nature, but the science is completely up to the teams.
NASA reviews applications for CubeSat missions every year and selects projects with an educational component that can also benefit the agency in better understanding education, science, exploration, and technology. Once accepted to the program, NASA mission managers act as advisors to the CubeSat teams, ensuring that technical, safety, and regulatory requirements are satisfied prior to launch. It's a win-win program. NASA's giving you the opportunity, yes, you the student or you the principal investigator, to actually build this satellite, to do the testing, to go through the systems engineering process, to build the requirements, and then fly and operate this CubeSat in space. Also, too, NASA centers are utilizing the initiative to train their future workforce, training early career hires in satellite development. And the coolest thing about this is that CubeSats are a low-cost, really efficient way to get into space. The program finds the ride to space. CubeSats can launch as cargo to the International Space Station for deployment or as rideshare payloads on commercial launches. The complement of NASA CubeSats on a given launch is referred to as an Alana mission, or educational launch of nanosatellites. NASA has launched more than 150 of these tiny missions. They don't make big headlines, but they make a really big impact on these students' education and their future.
How cool is that? NASA giving some opportunities there that might not otherwise exist to get payloads out into space. But it's not just NASA that's increasing the access to space here. Firefly also has their own CubeSat outreach program, don't they?
Yeah, we do. It's called DREAM. So our whole kind of company mission is to make space for everybody. So that's why we established DREAM in 2019. So the whole point is to donate excess capacity on Alpha. So if we're completing a mission and we have some extra payload weight, we'll donate that payload capacity to students and eliminate the cost of entry for launch. So it kind of provides hands-on experience and it kind of helps train this next generation of engineers.
Gotcha. I mean, that's such a good idea. Like, you have done such a good job with the structures.
Oh, thank you.
That you have a little bit of excess capacity. And you can donate some of that excess capacity to organizations, students, to get that payload in space. Do you ever have anything like that when you were in school?
No, man. I really, really, really wish I had an opportunity like this. This is the coolest thing ever. But yeah, we're actually flying DREAM again. So we flew DREAM on Flight 1.
Right.
We're going to fly DREAM again next year in 2025. And we've actually got 3 payloads already confirmed for that. We've got the Darkness CubeSat from the University of Illinois. We've got WolfSat-1 from Aerospace and Innovation Academy in Florida. And then we've got the Astra Ethera.
Sounds good to me.
CubeSat. Sorry, Auburn University, if I'm mispronouncing that. But yeah, we've got those 3 universities and their 3 CubeSats already confirmed for a flight next year.
Good deal. It really is such a good opportunity there. Again, you have the extra capacity. I guess it's not just the mass, but also volume in the payload fairing where you're adding those payloads in, but just giving a little bit of an extra ride to space for those organizations.
You might as well use it.
Yep.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
But I didn't get to fly a payload yet. Like, I want to fly a payload, but I'm not.
What would you fly if you had a payload to fly?
Oh, geez. Is that really a question?
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Cameras in space. Like,
cameras in space?
I can answer that anytime. Like, I'd put cameras in space.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kind of torn. Maybe I'll either make an arm from your camera so you can like kind of come back and film the rocket.
They'll need structures.
Or I don't know. Maybe I'll just launch like a little plastic dinosaur out there with my name on it.
A plastic dinosaur with your name on it.
I'm kind of torn. Yeah, there's so much science up there already. Orbit could use a little plastic dinosaur, I think.
Well, the good thing is we should put a camera so that we can see the plastic dinosaur headed out into space.
Together, Wonder Twins
it's
unite.
Like the Wonder Twins.
Yeah.
Basically, I just want to put cameras everywhere. Anyways, we've got a little bit more information coming up here, but are we getting a lot on social media? I'm going to look around the room. I've seen a couple things, but
they're collecting.
Me. We're collecting things from social media, maybe. Nice.
I really want to see some of those jellyfish pictures.
It's like Pokemon, but it's just jellyfish. We just collect jellyfish. Sorry. Anyways, if you did get those, make sure you post them up. Different jellyfish maybe here this evening. The trajectory might have changed the way that shape actually came into existence. I'm not going to try to illustrate it in 3D space here.
Well, yeah, the winds and everything will kind of alter that shape as well.
Yep.
So yeah, it could be different between pictures.
All right. But folks, coming up in just a little bit here, we're going to have, may not surprise you to learn, we have another video we're going to show you, but we're going to keep jumping back in and telling you what's going on live, including any live telemetry we get back, payload confirmations that might come back down over the ground stations, depending on which ground station is up or down or whichever way, when that happens. And if we get anything else, we'll try to share that as well. But what we've got next is a little bit of a discussion about Firefly's lunar mission, Blue Ghost. We're going to do a bit of movie magic here, and I want y'all to pay very close attention and see if you can figure out what we do behind the scenes when we roll this next video explaining what's up with the DREAM program.
It'll be tough to spot.
It really is. It's going to be tough. They'll never guess.
They'll never guess it.
Yeah. All right.
As we launch rockets, we prefer to maximize the capacity of those rockets. And if maximizing it means we could donate that capacity to students, then that would be a great use of our influence and our ability to give back. And so fundamentally, the DREAM program is a free ride to space to train the next generation of engineers.
For us as an organization, it was our first time doing something like this, and we're really excited about it. And the kids that were involved in the program are also extremely excited about going through that whole process.
From winning the launch in 2019 to now, we have had hundreds of students work on small satellites, learn about spacecraft mission design, how remote sensing works, and be able to kind of enable that.
A lot of the work we're doing like that in the community now, those are all a direct result of us being part of the DREAM program. So we really appreciate it, and there were many effects that continue on and continue to inspire our community. So it's been terrific.
Yes, you're learning the hands-on experience. Yes, you're learning the reality of the engineering versus the theory. But most importantly, you're learning how to fail and then get back up and achieve and do great things.
Again, such a cool program there, y'all. Donating some of that excess capacity to students to help them reach space with their payloads. But there's more that Firefly's got going on here. I don't know if y'all are paying attention, but there's a slight difference in the live stream. We're going to be talking about Firefly's lunar mission, Blue Ghost. It's actually going to be part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative. And with me here is Blue Ghost Chief Engineer, Will Coogan. Will, how you doing?
Doing great, thanks.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about what you do with the Blue Ghost mission.
Blue Ghost is a lunar lander that we are using to take 10 NASA-sponsored payloads to the surface of the moon, and that'll be later this year.
Gotcha. What do? You're the engineer in charge? Like, what specifically are your responsibilities?
I am chief engineer, which means I'm the technical authority for the lander, and what that means is, in addition to possibly taking credit for the work of a bunch of smart people, most of what I do is just work with the different subsystem teams and make sure that all of their wonderful ideas that make their subsystem excellent also work together to make the lander as a system something that's going to complete the mission.
Gotcha. I have to ask, I've never thought of this. Like, how many subsystems does it take to make it to the moon?
Well, it depends where you divide a subsystem.
Okay.
Some people say propulsion includes fluids. Some say propulsion is engines and fluids, and those are different subsystems. So there's some ambiguity. But about a half dozen.
It always comes down to defining your terms, like exactly where does the line get drawn?
Yes.
All right. So the mission, I think, is scheduled for later this year?
That's right. It'll be launching later this year.
All right. Q4, I think?
Yes.
Okay. And you're launching Blue Ghost. It's going all the way out to the moon. How long is it going to take to get to the moon?
Well, it takes about, it spends about 30 days in Earth orbit, about a month. It varies depending on what day that we end up launching. And then after that, it goes into lunar orbit. It's in lunar orbit for about 2 weeks, and then it descends and performs its surface operations, which take an additional about 2 weeks. That's the duration of a lunar day.
Yeah.
And then we'll actually be operating 5 hours into the lunar night.
So lunar day is sort of like the solar power you'll get on some solar panels. Then you have some battery capacity, and you'll operate a little bit into the lunar night.
Yep, that's right.
Excellent. Where are you headed? Do you have a target sort of selected, or?
We are going to Mare Crisium, the Sea of Crises, and there's actually a feature right next to our landing site that was named after Firefly after we were awarded this mission. So it's Mons Lettre. It translates to Mount Firefly.
It translates to Mount Firefly. Yes. And it was named for Firefly after you were awarded this mission?
It was.
That's pretty cool. If I'm looking up at the moon, all right, this is always a thing because people are like, oh, you landed on the moon. If I'm looking at the moon, and this is like North America versus Australia, I'm looking at the moon. Where on the moon that I can see would that be?
Well, it's on the near side for our mission 1. Our mission 2 is to the far side.
Right.
But mission 1 you can see. If you align yourself with north-south, we're in the top right, I want to say corner, but it's a circle.
Sure.
Top right quadrant.
See, I like hanging out with engineers because it's like, well, it doesn't have a corner. It's a circle. It's a sphere. Like, so you're not just going out to the moon for fun. You have payloads that you're delivering there as well. So let's talk a little bit about the payloads. They're going to be doing experiments on the lunar surface, or what do you have on board?
Some of them are gathering science. Some of them are technology demonstrations. It's a combination of those two things.
All right. So science, technology demonstrations. Tell us about some of the technology demonstrations.
Yeah, there are a bunch of really cool ones on board. Some of them are interacting with the lunar surface. One of them is actually operating throughout transit as well. It's trying to demonstrate a GPS or GNSS signal further than anyone's ever demonstrated that before. It'll be actually going twice as far as has been gone before, all the way out to the lunar distance and then operating again on the lunar surface.
Yeah, but like there's no GPS satellites around the moon. How does that work?
That's what makes it so challenging, right?
Okay.
All of the GPS satellites are pretty close to Earth, and none of them are looking backward. So what we're having to do with this payload's going to have to look all the way back to the Earth and beyond the Earth, and all of the GNSS satellites are going to be within about a 1 degree field of view. So all very close together and trying to pinpoint its position from those data.
No kidding. I mean, I guess the GPS satellite constellation doesn't waste energy beaming signal away from Earth. Like we're all down here on the ground with our phones and our cars trying to figure out where we are. So they beam it down towards the Earth. But how does it get to the moon? Does it miss?
A little bit of the signal goes around the Earth, and that's what they're listening for.
No kidding. So a payload headed out to the moon, one of the many payloads on the mission here, headed out to the moon, listening for the leaked GPS signals that sort of go past the edge of the Earth and end up where the lander is.
Yes, and the idea is if they can get that at the moon, then that's a service we can use at the moon to precisely navigate.
Interesting. A lot of other cool stuff going on as well. There was some regolith testing, wasn't there?
There are, I think, 3 different payloads that are interacting with the lunar surface itself. There is it's called PlanetVac. There's one that's, we are actually pushing on a robotic arm down into the surface, and it will spray some compressed gas onto the surface, and that will blow some regolith back up into the lander, where it has a camera and a sample sort, and we'll be looking at different pieces of regolith.
I think there was a mission that got asteroid samples that way. It sort of did a puff that blew the sample back up into the collection area or something like that.
I think on OSIRIS-REx they may have done that.
Yeah, there you go. All right. And all sorts of other stuff going on as well. But the important thing here is that there are payloads. We're not just sending a structure to the moon that's going to land and declare victory. There's important science going on.
And there's important science going on, and where our structure isn't just landing. Like Morgan was talking about, we actually have a robotic arm that's going down to the surface. We have another payload we're dropping on the surface. We have others we are shooting off in 4 different directions to measure the core, the properties of the core of the moon. And then we have 2 gimbals that we are pointing back at Earth or at the magnetopause in front of the Earth.
All right. Well, so in order to get these payloads to the moon, you have to have the lander. Tell us a little bit more about the lander itself.
Yeah, our lander can take a little... Depends where we get dropped off. Yeah. But it can take upwards of 100 kilograms to the surface of the moon. On this mission, like I said, we're taking 10 different payloads. It is, it's built for stability. It is much wider than it is tall.
It's about 2 meters tall?
2 meters tall and about 3.5 wide.
Gotcha.
It has 4 legs that compress to absorb the impact of landing.
Yeah.
It's a spacecraft that's made to be stable once it reaches the surface.
And what you see here, this isn't actually the entire lander put together. Like this is sort of the main structure, but it's missing some. There's actually more components on this one.
Yeah. So that's where we were doing the bonding of the legs. Yeah. We removed those after putting them on, just because they do limit access to the lander to some extent.
Course.
So we want to be able to access it. We also leave the solar arrays off until the very end for that.
Because they also limit access to the actual main body where you have all the wiring and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the feet, because we've got another prop here to show. When you're landing on the moon, you want to be able to absorb the energy of impact, like when you're going down there to land. How are you managing absorbing or mitigating that energy as you head down towards the moon?
Yes, well,
or after you land on the moon is the right thing.
Yeah, one thing we do is we come in slow, right? So we use a vision navigation system, make sure that we are approaching our target landing site safely. Within our landing velocity dispersions, we want to make sure that our landing gear can absorb the remaining velocity from landing. And so within our landing gear, we actually have these honeycomb structures.
Okay.
That, they may be able to see. If I get the right camera.
Look through.
There's a honeycomb though, so similar to what you would see in a beehive, and you can see these are actually different lengths. So these are essentially a before and after from simulated landing.
So those were the same length, but now one has actually taken a little bit of, I guess it's absorbed a little energy.
It's absorbed a little bit of energy, and it's made sure that all the payloads stay within their launch load case. So launch is the most severe environment these payloads will ever see.
Gotcha. I guess, can I see one?
Yes.
Nice.
Be careful.
I guess technically it hasn't absorbed energy, it's dissipated energy. Like the energy is not stored in it, but it's been taken and
been converted into heat.
Converted into heat. Nice. All right. So these are crush cores, and they're sort of, I'd say one use, but I don't think they're just one use.
It depends how fast we hit the surface.
Right.
But they could potentially be used up to 3 times.
Gotcha. So you have a little bit of crush, and then you have a little bit more, and you have a little bit more.
That's right.
I mean, it's not curable. You don't want to bounce.
You don't want to bounce, so you want to absorb the impact of landing.
Gotcha. All right. These are actually really cool. They're super lightweight, and you can sort of, look at that camera, see through them. It has the honeycomb shape there, but y'all are making all these. These are contained, I think, in tubes, right?
They are contained in tubes. I believe we may have a video that you'll be seeing shortly that will show one of these in action. You will not be able to see this because it is contained within the leg of the lander.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. We'll see when that comes up, but all these things, are you making this all from scratch? Do you have some flight-proven stuff that's already flown? Like, what are we doing?
It's a combination of things. We tried to use things that we've already made, and specifically things that we've already made here at Firefly.
Okay.
So that includes composite structures. We obviously have a lot of experience making composite tubes. Ours happen to be quite a bit smaller, right? We have struts about this large as opposed to a 6-foot diameter rocket.
Right.
Our flight computer is the same as is presently flown on Alpha. Our batteries are almost identical, and our RCS, our ACS system, actually, Alpha calls it RCS, we call it ACS.
ACS,
but
RCS.
A cold gas attitude control system is identical to Alpha's.
Gotcha. So some things that you've made specifically for the lander and some things that you've already made for other purposes, or even like processes that you've worked on at different scales, working with composites on larger tubes, smaller tubes, and then you use that for the lander as well.
Yep, that's right.
All right, excellent. Let's see here. What else are we talking about? Oh, here's actually some of the thrusters and I think the engines that we've got on the screen.
Yes,
there, right?
Those are Firefly developed thrusters that were developed specifically for this mission. Those are bipropellant thrusters that are 200 newtons each, and we have 8 of those on the vehicle.
Gotcha. Now, you talk about this stuff, you've developed some of it, you've tested some of it. What sort of testing do you go through to make sure it's ready for the moon? Because it's not like we just pop over to the moon real quick and test it and then come back and fix it.
Yeah, that would be a very expensive test. So
it'd be nice if we could do that.
We test everything at every scale that we reasonably can here on Earth.
Okay.
We test things at the component level. We take them, we shake them, we put them in a thermal vacuum chamber to simulate the space environment and show that it's good at the component level. Then we integrate everything into the vehicle, and we do that testing again at the vehicle level to show that the vehicle as an overall system is also gonna be successful through the mission.
Gotcha. And some of this happens up around Briggs, your test site, right?
Yes, we've done quite a bit of testing up at Briggs. Usually you do load testing on a vibration table.
Right.
We did do that, but there's also a static load case that you have to do. So we actually used our test stand 4. It's a test stand we actually use to squish and twist rocket bodies.
Right.
And we were able to make some adapters so that we could do that on a much smaller vehicle.
Sure.
Maybe large for a spacecraft, but would be very small for a rocket.
Yeah.
And we're able to use that same test facility to prove out the structure there.
Good deal.
In addition to that, we made a 1-acre moonscape.
There you go.
So that we could test out our vision navigation system, and we were able to fly a heavy lift drone over our moonscape. Looks like we have video of that there.
Now, this is not on the moon. The drone would not work on the moon.
The drone would not work very well on the moon.
It'd be very confusing. But you're testing a vision navigation system, so cameras sort of looking down towards the moon, identifying features, figuring out, all right, that's a clump of rocks, that's a shadow, and you use that to sort of position yourself, right?
Yep. We can do positioning. We can do absolute positioning based on the features we see that we recognize from having previously seen that in LRO or other lunar orbiter data. And then we can do relative positioning based on, we know where that thing is. We see a new thing. We can see both those things. So now we know where the new thing is and can navigate relative to that.
Gotcha. And I think we were talking earlier, because of course we talked before the show, but you had mentioned there's a couple different cameras there. Like in one attitude, this is not the spacecraft, but it's flying like this, right? And you have a camera sort of looking down. Yes. And then when it transitions into the landing, see, I put the crush on the bottom even. When it transitions to the landing attitude, then you have a camera sort of looking down this way. And both of those are processing that terrain visual information to help you guide your way down.
That's exactly right.
All right, excellent. The footpad, geez, we talked about the moonscape. We talked about the drone. There were a lot of drop tests as well. I think there was some very interesting...
Almost 100 drop tests,
100 drop tests.
Yes, so we want to prove that the landing gear worked. So we dropped down a bunch of different things. Here we have video of dropping it on lunar regolith simulant. So this material is produced in a lab to be very similar to what we expect to be on the moon. And you can see the moment that it impacted, that the ankle actually compressed, and that's one of these structures getting compressed in a one-time deformation. You also saw there was a rock representing what's characteristic in our parking lot, actually not on the moon, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what it is, right? We hit something hard, we show that the foot can deform. And we tested on simulant, we tested on sand, we tested on concrete, because we don't know exactly what's going to be there when we land, but what's the worst possible thing we can land on. Right. And so if we're good on concrete, we're pretty confident we're going to be good on the surface of the moon.
Now, wait a second. In the background there, those look like dumbbells.
Yeah, never skip leg day. So we needed weight. We needed to simulate a certain amount of momentum. On that test stand, we can add or we can remove weight. We can change the height from which we drop the foot, and we can also change the angle of impact to simulate all the dispersions of possible velocities we might have at landing.
Gotcha. All right. So we've talked about all this stuff. We've actually shown some hardware being tested, and we showed some hardware there. This always comes up. Does Blue Ghost exist, or is all this just like ideas right now and renders and stuff?
Well, you just saw photos of it.
I
believe you got to take a tour of the facility and see it in person. So yes, it does exist.
I did. I know that's always the question. So I tried to see if I could go out to the facility and verify if Blue Ghost hardware actually existed. And thumbs up. Yes, I did see there in the clean room behind me. I was looking through glass, and that is Blue Ghost, isn't it?
Yes, and as we mentioned, and as we mentioned, the legs have been removed from it, and the solar rays go on at the end.
Good.
But otherwise, it is there.
So right now there is hardware that exists. It's right there behind me over at the clean room. 10 payloads are already integrated.
That's right.
And you're getting ready to ship it out to NASA JPL for environmental testing, right?
Yes, that is where we'll do the integrated shaking and thermal vacuum testing.
All right, and then we go up to out to the Cape Canaveral, it looks like, for a Q4 launch. What vehicle are you launching on?
We are actually launching on a SpaceX Falcon 9.
Nice.
We need a little bit more throw than we could get from Alpha. So they are sending us most of the way to what's called TLI, or translunar injection. We will be doing a few orbits about the Earth and then carry on with the rest of our mission around the moon.
Gotcha. All right. So after Blue Ghost launches, it's going to have to get its way out to the moon, right? I think there's like a 45-day transit between the Earth and the moon. It's in Earth orbit for a little while. It transits out to the moon. It orbits the moon for a little while too.
It does, for about 2 weeks.
For about 2 weeks. Okay. And then that actually, why does it take so long?
Well, there are a bunch of different ways you can get to the moon.
Right.
You can go in a nearly straight shot, similar to how Apollo did it.
Yep.
We prefer to actually take a slightly more roundabout trajectory because it gives us more time in Earth orbit to test out our systems, to show everything on the vehicle works before any critical maneuvers, to prove out that the payloads can do their checkouts and that they work, so they're not having to start troubleshooting when we have a limited 2-week period to operate on the lunar surface. Do things like calibrate our engines to make sure they're well tuned before we do things like lunar orbit insertion, where it's a one-shot type thing.
Makes good sense. All right. And we get all the way out there to the moon, and then you've already sort of mentioned you're going to operate for 14 days, basically a lunar day.
Yes.
Out on the surface of the moon, and then you're actually going to go into the lunar night. Why is that?
Well, there's a phenomenon that's expected to happen at lunar dusk when the sun sets and the solar rays are going parallel to the surface of the moon. It's expected that some of the dust may levitate off the surface.
Levitate off the surface?
We are going to try and image that for NASA.
No kidding. So that's where you've got the lunar day, solar power being beamed, not really intentionally beamed, being captured, being collected from the rays of the sun that are sort of reaching it there. But once the sun goes down, that's the right way to say it. Yeah, the sun goes down on the moon.
It does.
Sure, it does. I'm like, does the moon rotate? The moon? Anyways, you lose that solar power, and you have enough stored in the batteries to operate for a couple hours, and a specific thing...
About 5 hours,
About 5 hours. And a specific thing you're doing there is going to be to try to image that rising dust, levitating dust.
Yes.
No kidding. We have enough bandwidth to get this imagery back down again?
We do. We actually have very talented telecom engineers who have figured out a way to get us 10 megabits per second.
Okay.
That's HD video, or approximately the equivalent of.
I'd use it for HD video.
Okay. So that, I think, is something we're used to from Earth, but we are 1,000 times further away than something in low Earth orbit. So I think, given that, it's extremely impressive that we've got a system that can handle that.
If people are like, oh, I have so much more than that on my cell phone or at home, well, your cell phone or your house isn't on the moon, so.
Yes.
Excellent. I do believe coming up here, we've got a lot more to talk about. We're continuing the clock counting towards the payload deployment on Flight 5 here, folks. But Will, thank you so much for hanging out with us here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Excellent. I think we got a little bit of a video here to show more about Blue Ghost. We'll roll that. Movie magic will happen, and we will be right back.
Payloads to Mare Crisium, which is in the northeast quadrant of the moon's near side. This mission in particular marks a significant step forward in advancing our lunar research and enabling a sustainable presence on the moon. We've developed this in central Texas, just outside of Austin, and our Blue Ghost lunar lander will enable payloads to operate through transit into the lunar night, which is about 14 Earth days, and will also operate into the freezing lunar night. It's been a little over 3 years since we won the CLIPS task order. It's been really interesting. You basically spend a little over the first year designing the vehicle and understanding the requirements and laying a really strong foundation. And then you move into basically your manufacturing and integration phase over almost 2 full years. And then you close out with over a year of testing. So this is integrated testing on the lander and then ultimately environmental testing of the spacecraft itself. So you kind of see these different phases of the vehicle from birth all the way through landing on the moon.
We have a diverse set of payloads going on this Blue Ghost mission. We have some that are operating in transit to the moon, tracking GPS signals, as well as testing out radiation-tolerant computing. But then on the surface of the moon, we have a couple of more robotic payloads that are interacting with the lunar surface. We have a pneumatic drill. It goes down the surface of the moon to understand heat fluxes and take some temperature measurements. We also have a lunar planet vac. It essentially is collecting samples and processing those and getting some information from those, and it's doing it in a much more affordable way than has been done traditionally in the past. It's been such a journey to get there, and what excited me the most is seeing the first payload integrate onto the lander. We've been working so hard to get to that point, and after that first payload was integrated, we kind of kept going payload after payload and got all of 10 payloads integrated onto the vehicle and functionally tested them out. That's just been very exciting. It's really getting real now that we can see all of the progress that's been made and all of those payloads on the lander.
One of the things that motivates me a lot and inspires me a lot are the people that work on the program, because everyone basically came from a very unique, very diverse background, but came to work together to solve a joint problem. And so it's really interesting every day to see how people approach problems or see how people overcome challenges. And then ultimately, you look into the clean room and you see the result of everyone's efforts.
All right, folks, we're rapidly approaching the payload deployment, and we're going to be standing by to listen in on those ground stations and see what confirmation we get. But our movie magic has happened again, and we've actually got Morgan back with us. Morgan, welcome back.
Hello, thank you. Misdirection. I like it.
So coming up here, we expect for the vehicle, the second stage is carrying the payloads, to come back within range of a ground station. And when it comes back in range of the ground station, we're expecting to get some information back, right?
Yeah. So we passed over some stuff. We were blind for a little bit, but we're about to come into line of sight to a ground station.
Right.
And so we're kind of coming over in the middle of our payload deploy. So we won't have live footage for payloads 1 through 5.
Okay.
But we will have live footage for payloads 6 through 8. So kind of the order of how we're going to be hearing things and looking at things is first we'll see number 6, then 7, then 8.
Right.
And then after that, we're going to kind of wait on Alpha to send all its data down to the ground station. And it should be sending back some replay videos of the first 5 that then we'll watch after.
Gotcha. So what's going on? Is it still sort of coasting around the planet, right now.
Yeah.
And it's coming back within range of the ground station, but it's going to start deploying payloads before it actually, regains the link with that ground station, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be doing its work in the background. We just won't see it until we link up with that ground station.
Right. That's like a program sort of thing where the rocket is programmed, all right, payload, payload, payload. It's not like there's somebody on the ground that has to hit a button to, okay, let the next payload go. There's like a lever you pull or something. That's not how that works.
Big red button to deploy payload. That would be amazing.
There'd be 8 of them, actually. You had to do in a row.
That'd be so great.
But the rocket is doing that autonomously, as it was programmed to do here as we coast, even though we don't have the ground link to the ground station.
Yes.
And if the ground station behaves and accepts the link whenever it comes back over the horizon, the first things that we might see from it are video, like a live video, but that's expected to be the last 3 payloads deploying.
Yes.
And while the payloads are deploying right now, actually, because we're 44 minutes, just over 40 seconds, it's actually going to be recording the visuals of those other payloads deploying, and if it gets that opportunity there, it's going to downlink that recording to us after we get the live feed, is the expectation.
Yeah, that's the hope.
That's the hope.
The priority is that we're getting alpha health data down first, but yes, I am hoping to see some of these payloads deployed.
Gotcha. It's always the thing. It's like, I want to see the live cameras in space. I want the selfie stick, like looking back at the rocket. I want the inspection bot that flies around and shows you everything, like a little autonomous inspection bot or something. All live cameras. But here, not the primary mission. The primary mission is putting those payloads up into orbit and getting them on their way so that they can do their own missions, reporting back. I say reporting back into NASA. It's not like the payload like calls up NASA and like, hey, I'm here. Getting the link back to the folks that will be running those experiments on the payloads. I know that I'm always excited to see the imagery, but the primary mission is getting them up there, and that basic telemetry doesn't need to be HD video. If we get some, we'll share it with you, but we'll be standing by.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I'll jump in really quick because I do want to set expectations. So if we do get that replay video back, there is one payload that is out of the camera view. So unfortunately, I think TES-11 by NASA Ames is kind of bolted on the opposite side of where our camera's sitting.
Right.
So even though the payload will deploy, we're not entirely sure if we'll actually see it on camera.
If we'll see it on camera, right?
Yeah.
So if you're sitting there, you're counting, and you're like, 1, 2, something like that. There are some payloads, or at least one payload that we may not actually see on a video. Exactly how that's going to come back in the replay, well, you'll find out when we find out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So that is going to be our plan. But we are still a couple minutes away from these, I guess, the ground station reacquiring us here. In the meantime, these payloads that are being deployed, are we still going? I'm not going to try to call out each payload. I'm not going to look at the clock.
Some of them have some gnarly names as well. Sorry, Johnson, but yeah, R5-S4-2.0.
It's a tough.
Doesn't roll off the tongue very well.
Yeah. I wonder if it's an acronym. I don't think it would be. It's got too many numbers in it. But instead of us saying like, oh, right about now, this payload should be deploying, we'll wait till we get that reestablished ground link, and we'll let Mission Control handle what's been deployed and what's not been deployed. We're just here hanging out with y'all as the rocket sort of coasts back into range of the ground station. We talked a little bit about our own payloads.
Yes. I'm kind of taking back the plastic dinosaur now.
Really?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
I mean, we got to keep it silly instead.
Yeah, I think it should be a duck instead.
So not a big change.
Not a big change. Still a plastic animal.
There's got to be something like structurally interesting as the structures engineer that this animal would be, like a carbon fiber duck.
Well, it can still be plastic and made out of carbon fiber
at the same time.
Yes, resin is plastic after all.
Do you have like a favorite carbon fiber?
Do I have a favorite carbon fiber? Oh
I don't even know if that's a thing.
I've
I
never
just made
been
that
asked that nerdy of a question before.
We're in new territory now.
No, I don't. But next time I look at our rolls of carbon fiber at the Rocket Ranch, I will pick a favorite type.
I'm going to be like, that's my favorite right there.
Whatever's the least problematic on the given day during manufacturing. That's my favorite.
It may sort of ebb and flow, your feelings for each type of carbon fiber weave.
I'm like, that one was fraying a little bit yesterday. It didn't cut very well. So today, this one's my favorite.
It's like a disapproving look, like, you know what you did.
You go sit in that corner over there and you think about it.
All right. There in Mission Control, folks, you can see they are also standing by for the reacquisition here as it comes over the horizon towards that ground station. So continuing to hang out, we're now T plus 48 minutes, 48 and a half minutes actually, into the mission here, and payloads should be deploying.
Yeah, they should have been deploying this whole time. And I think the first live payload is expected around T plus 51 minutes and 53 seconds. So we've got a couple more minutes to wait until we hope to see some live footage.
Gotcha.
But yeah, again, that will be payload number 6 first.
Right.
So we're seeing 6, then 7, then 8, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. The same sort of thing, like while we were going through this, I was like, man, I don't know what these payloads look like. Like, is there a payload spotting guide or something like that I could maybe learn to spot, like, oh yeah, that one's the CatSat or whatever. But I'm not going to sit here trying to identify which payload is which.
Yeah, I don't have a pamphlet that tells me what goes where or how it falls away from the rocket.
Yeah.
So I'll just look at the pretty, oh, look at them.
See Firefly is still out there. Actually, we're right before the 4th of July. Are we past midnight now?
You know what?
Oh.
Almost.
Yeah, just a few
Texas
minutes
time,
before midnight.
almost.
I only work in
California
T plus
time.
and T minus clocks right now. Like, I don't actually know what time it
True.
is.
There's nothing else. There's no room in my brain for anything but the countdown clock
But
right
the
now.
countdown clock. The count up clock, I guess.
I guess in California it would be. It would be 4th of July.
Other way, East Coast.
Other way, East
Yeah,
Coast.
East Coast
That's
is 4th
right.
of July.
See,
California
brain empty, countdown clock is the only thing in there right now.
can enjoy the 3rd of July for just a couple
The
more
3rd of
hours.
July.
All good. Coming up on 50 minutes. And as soon as we get some information, we may be quiet all of a sudden if we start to hear the launch net.
Yeah.
We're trying really hard not to talk over the launch net. I know I've done a couple of rocket streams, and I know how people feel if you talk over the countdown net, the launch net. So
We don't mean to.
we really don't mean to, but we also like talking about rockets.
Yes, I love talking about rockets.
All right. So 50 minutes, just 50 minutes and 30 seconds here, and we'll continue to listen in. Let's actually just listen into mission control here for a second. Again, just erring on the side of caution here so we can hear those call-outs from LCC, which is?
Oh, sorry, I didn't study. You
Switching
put
to
me on the
HBK
spot.
Cortex.
I wasn't ready for it.
All
Data's
con,
flowing.
AVI on CD1. Payload deployment of Sockeye, Test 11, Serenity, R5S4, and R5S2 confirmed.
And there it is.
There you go.
So coming up in a couple seconds should be CatSat.
So it looks like we came back into range of that ground station, and the rocket transmitted information down to mission control saying that it had deployed those first 5. Did he read all 5?
He did read all 5 because I was
so.
following along.
You were following along. Thank you. This is live video from space. You can actually see the Earth. Look at the curve of the Earth there in the background.
Man, what a rewarding feeling.
Yeah.
Just to look at that and be like, yeah, I put that there.
I put that there. Look at all the people.
Yeah, they put that there, really.
Yep. Who came together to work. And now the rocket doing its job, and they can be out there watching the show. Y'all really delivered these payloads sort of like on a platter, it looks like.
They're kind of on a little plate there, aren't they?
They are. It's a payload attach fitting. It's like the payload attach plate.
PAP?
The PAP.
PAP.
So we've got that bright sun there sort of blowing out on the right-hand side. The curve of the Earth down going across the bottom of the screen. Little hiccupy on the video, but that's fine. It's in space. Again, the primary mission was not to put a fancy camera into space. It was to put these payloads into space. I'll take all the frames it'll give me. I'm okay with it.
Oh, same.
On CD1, payload deployment of CubeSat confirmed.
That would be the, if it was CubeSat and not the generic CubeSat term, that would be University of Kansas we just heard on the net.
Yes. KUBE, maybe.
Now, in some of these cases, they're dispensers, right?
Yes. So when we talk about a 1U of size, it's 10 centimeters by 10 centimeter cube. So we have a lot of 3U dispensers on Alpha for payloads that are 3U size. Their payloads come in a bunch of sizes. They can come in 1U, 2U, 3U, 6U, 12U.
Sure.
And yeah, a lot of the ones that we carry are 3U.
All right. And just after T plus 55 is when that playback may occur. Again, if you see something change, we do expect that the rocket was recording the payloads that deployed first, and we may get a jump here as it begins playback instead of live video. Look at the Earth, though.
On CD1, payload deployment of
like
MESAT confirmed.
And that would actually be the 8th one in the deployment. MESAT
Yes.
from the University of Maine. Outstanding. All right,
CD1,
so this, you
TM
see
is
how it
now
just
playback.
changed.
There it is. We don't even have to say anything.
Yeah, geez, we'll just let them do the stream.
Yeah.
So the reason we got the big play or the big change there is because this is the expected playback. Now, it's not all of the time. It was programmed to record for a short time before deployment, and then during deployment and a short time after deployment. So let's see what we get in the playback. I'm not seeing a lot of motion there on the playback. There it just flipped over, but every now and then you get some pixels changing. But again, we have heard from Mission Control the telemetry confirming the deployment of the payloads there. The video is bonus for us. We had no clue what we were actually going to see on it.
Yeah.
But I argued very strongly myself, like, hey, whatever it is, I know that people will understand. Let's see it. Let's see what we actually get back down from the rocket. But it's not exactly like a spring, like sproing, every payload making its own noise coming off the top of the rocket
I
or
do
anything
wish.
like that.
I do wish. Also, I was corrected by one of my coworkers when I was off screen. We do have audio on the rocket. They're called Excels.
Excels?
Yes.
Are they like microphone something that's like touching a
I
structure?
had totally forgotten about them.
Really?
Yeah, they record audio data.
I like it. See, that's a different view there because it's like sort of switching around to a couple different, I guess, views. But again, it wasn't recording the entire time. It was just recording the deployment of each one a little bit before and a little bit after.
Yeah, I think it was something like 10 seconds before deploy, something like that, roughly.
Yeah, yeah.
Expected to LOS in approximately 1 minute.
And there was another expected loss of signal in approximately 1 minute. And a little correction for something I said there, I was sort of saying, oh, got confirmation of the payloads. I think we heard confirmation of deployment of 7 of the payloads, and we're still waiting on confirmation for the deployment of CatSat from the University of Arizona. But here's another thing to remember. They just said expected LOS in a minute, and it's not the last ground station on the planet. As it turns out, there's a couple ground
there are
stations.
quite a few, yeah.
And so every time it comes into range of another ground station, it'll downlink additional data, and we'll see what we get. That looks like an end of file on the video, though.
On CD1, TM is now live.
And there's mission control again. We heard that it was going back live, but we also know that it was an expected LOS. It's almost like we need to do an entire explanation of like how ground stations work. You're not plugged into the phone line and you're just like, oh yeah, wherever.
Yeah, you got to bring out the whiteboard.
LOS.
Maybe I can talk about Max Q while you talk about ground stations.
There you go. We'll get some string and some red pins and like
yeah.
explain how it works. And that would be the situation if we have an expected LOS. We'd have to wait for it to come back in range of the next ground station, which, if I'm not mistaken, may be 10 or 15 minutes away. Like, it's not immediate. There's a little bit of time in between the ground stations over here where the vehicle is flying right now. Flying? Can I say flying?
I'll call it flying.
It doesn't have wings.
Controlled falling.
Controlled falling. Just artful falling.
Stylish.
Stylish falling.
Falling with style.
Expect AOS of Svalbard in approximately 15 minutes.
There you go.
All right.
I heard expected AOS of Svalbard.
Acquisition of signal,
Yeah.
I assume. That's
AOS.
one acronym that I don't know.
Thank you. No, it is. Yeah, acquisition of signal.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
The structures person doesn't need to know about the signal. Like. And so it was about 15 minutes there where they'll be between ground stations coasting along. Yeah, that is a planned loss of signal. How you feeling, Morgan?
Look, I am happy as a clam right now.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, for sure. My structures did their job. They looked great doing it. My job here is done.
I appreciate that the fashion is part of it. Like, they did their job and they looked great.
Yeah, that shiny, bright new LOX tank, S2 LOX tank, looked really good.
Nice. All right, y'all. So another thing that we've got going on here, we have all the different camera angles that we didn't show you during launch. We were recording all of those, and if I'm not mistaken, we're putting together a little bit of a montage to show all the cameras we couldn't show you live because, well, we could only just show you one camera at a time whenever it's actually taking off. But we're working on pulling a bunch of those replays so that we can play you out with replays of the launch of Flight 5.
A little bit more movie magic to close us out.
A little bit, yeah. I feel like I want to go and start reading how people were feeling. I always go back after the stream.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and I go through and I read the comments and I'm like, what do people like?
Yeah.
Like, where were they sort of spamming emotes? Where were they excited? Because it really is an ebb and flow. Like, we actually get a little graph of the chat sentiment.
Yeah.
And you can see the exciting parts of the stream. But it always... Because what I want to do here is help share this with people.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to me to go and see what people were saying and sort of how they were feeling and how they reacted to some of the cool stuff we were able to include in the live stream.
Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of those people are Fireflies too, watching the live stream. And I mean, they should be proud. They should be excited. Like,
absolutely.
Every single team, did amazingly. That's how we actually put this thing up there. So yeah, they should be proud.
Even the Fireflies are all over the map. Like when we had the view of the Fireflies here in Austin that we're watching, they're here in Austin, Texas. The view we see on screen right now, that's actually all the way over there in Vandenberg.
Yes.
So we've got folks sort of spread all over. Some of the team out there in California supporting the launch, getting things ready. Some of our people, some of NSF's people are out there as well.
Yeah.
Getting cameras out, making sure the uplinks are all working. We've got backup plans and all sorts of stuff to help share the broadcast with you. And then here as well, the team of people who aren't out celebrating because we're still on the live stream. Being on the live stream is a celebration.
The grind never stops. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good time. Oof, that very relatable.
Yeah.
I'd like to be there right now.
Some people up past the bedtime there, which is fine.
Yeah, it is definitely past my bedtime too.
Hey, that's how it goes with rocket launches. We're beholden to orbital mechanics.
Yes.
We don't just launch whenever we feel like launching to deliver the payloads. Actually, I guess the customer decides.
The customer decides.
The trajectory that they want to take a ride on.
But yeah, if they say 15 minutes to next acquisition, then we wait 15 minutes. That's kind of how it works.
Exactly right. But I am going to go through and I'm going to look at social media and see all of the different posts that got captured, what the jellyfish look like from different places. I almost wish you could do like a photogrammetry sort of thing, like make a 3D jellyfish from shots taken from different angles.
Cool. Yeah.
That would be cool. All right. So we've done a lot here on the live stream, folks. We've shared a lot of information with you, a little bit of a recap of what's going on. We've talked about, well, we already know what's going on with the mission. We were getting confirmation of payloads being deployed. But Morgan, tell us about what Firefly's got going on the rest of the year here.
Yeah, we have got a ton happening in the remainder of the year. And we've already done a lot in the first, 7 months now?
July. I mean, 6 months, really, because we just finished June, yeah.
Yeah, but
we don't get credit for July yet.
True. It's only like the first couple days. But yeah, Will already talked about Blue Ghost, and he did a great job. So I don't want to say anything about Blue Ghost that might not be true. That's not really my thing. But what is my thing is Alpha and MLV. So for Alpha, we've got Flight 6 coming up. It's a dedicated commercial mission for Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
So that one's coming up pretty soon. And then Alpha Flight 7 will actually launch our first Elytra orbital vehicle for the very first time.
Okay.
Yeah, so this thing is this barrel with some engines and some on-orbit capability. So yeah, Elytra will deploy some commercial payloads first, and then they'll perform some responsive kind of on-orbit operation in support of the NRO.
Gotcha. So Alpha Flight 6 still coming up. Alpha Flight 7 as well. You've also got another rocket that y'all are working on, don't you?
Yes, this is what I've been mostly working on for the last several months. Our medium launch vehicle is currently undergoing development and testing.
Right.
Not only in structures, but also propulsion. So yeah, there's a picture of it right there. You can see the green T-tab.
But Morgan, the green is not...
No, it's not copper.
It's not copper.
I
That's
promise.
actually the T-tab.
Yeah, that is the T-tab.
Social media, how does it work?
But yeah, so we've actually fired that Miranda engine 19 times to date.
The funny thing is we keep having to update that number.
We do. It might be 20, it might be 25 by this point.
Who knows?
We fire more every day. So yeah, that picture you're looking at there, it's actually on our TS1, Test Stand 1, which normally holds up Reavers and Lightnings for nominal hot fires. So when we put the Miranda on there, we put kind of like a stubby development version because the full power Miranda would have just kind of knocked TS1 over.
Stand not designed for that.
It is not designed for that powerful of an engine. So we built, as you can see on the screen, we built TS5. So that's us lifting a Miranda into TS5, and TS5 can support full power testing, and we've done quite a few of those out there as well.
Gotcha. I need to get up there, but this is all at Briggs, right?
This is all up at Briggs, Rocket Ranch, some people call it. But yeah, it's like 30-ish, 45 minutes north of our headquarters.
Okay, just up the road.
Just up the road. It's really nice. It can be a blessing and a curse because sometimes I have hardware getting built and like, quick, we need you now. Come make the drive and look at this.
You're just right here.
And I'm like, but I'm in the middle of something at my desk. But yeah, we're also not only testing engines, but our MLV size barrels and tanks.
On the screen.
On the screen. That is my baby right there. That's what I've been working on. So that is a short version of our full length MLV stage 1.
Right.
Yeah, so that right there is kind of our development article in order to mostly proof out the manufacturing methods and things like that, because we've never built anything at this scale before.
Right.
So yeah, it's I think, I can't remember off the top of my head, something like a third of the length of the full stage 1.
It's a subscale, right? Like you're working on the processes to lay this thing up and get it produced, and so you don't need to make it the entire length. You sort of make it to a smaller scale, not a smaller diameter, but just a smaller length.
Yeah, it is the full diameter. It is shorter axially, and that's just for our development tank. So we will be making a qual tank for qualification testing that is the full length of what MLV Stage 1 will be.
I'm sitting over here like axially. That's how long it is, right?
That is how long it is, like top to bottom.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Or forward to aft if you're using space verbiage.
Forward to aft.
Yes.
Good deal. Folks, all sorts of things going on with Firefly. If you want to learn more about what Firefly is doing, head on over to fireflyspace.com/mission for more details. It's like, go to the webpage. I don't actually know, that link might pop up into chat. If any of the mods can get that link into chat so people can click on it and go see what Firefly is up to, go for it. So a little update in my ear real quick. You can tell when I'm listening because I cock my head a little bit. But what's going on? We're waiting for that deployment confirmation for CatSat. We've got 7 confirmations out of 8. Mm-hmm. And that confirmation for CatSat, as much as Morgan and I would love to hang out with you here for the rest of the evening as it flies over ground stations, that's actually going to come on social media. So if you're not already following Firefly on social media, make sure you do. That's where we expect, because they won't let us just stay alive forever.
Oh, no. Even though I want to.
The confirmation for the deployment of that 8th payload, but 7 payload confirmation deployments coming down. One more time, folks, if you were able to catch some of these, make sure, there it went, it animated. Make sure you tag us on social media, post up the shots you got of the jellyfish or the launch or whatever it is that you experienced. We're glad you were here experiencing with us, if you only were here on the live stream. But either way, thank you so much for being a part of this. Also, this actually is from tonight, sent in from social media. This is a streak shot, it looks like, and you can see various bits of the deployment and the sunset over there. There's a little bit of city lights down in the background as well.
That's really cool. You can see Miko and Stage 2 ignition. That's awesome.
Yeah. Very cool. So keep sending them in on social media if you want to share this, or keep them to yourself. I don't know, whichever way you want to do it. It's not compulsory to put them on social media. But anyways, also, if you're interested in rocking some Firefly, can I say swag?
You can say swag. Yeah.
Pretty sure I can say swag. Head on over.
I'll only make fun of you a little bit.
Only a little bit. It's what they told me to say. Head on over to fireflymerch.com. We've actually got some very cool long sleeve sun shirts that have the mission patch on the back of them. There's all sorts of other shirts as well. Do we have that? We do have the things.
We do.
It's the end of the stream, so this is how the end of the stream
to
goes.
Pull this out.
The mission was the noise of summer. And we've got sunglasses, quite literally. They say Firefly on the side.
They do.
At night.
You look cooler when you wear them inside, especially at night.
Especially at night. It cancels out, actually.
It does, yeah. I can still see the screens.
Anyways, folks, that's fireflymerch.com. At this point of the evening, it's like, I don't even know what time it is.
Slightly delirious.
It is time for us to shut down the live stream. You took yours off. Now I'm gonna.
No. Go ahead.
Anyways, folks, we're gonna play you out with a replay here of some various views of the mission. Hey, thank y'all so much for joining us here. Thank you for bearing with us as well. We wanted to share as much as we could of the mission with you, and we got you some very cool mission bits, some countdown net there that you got to listen into, all those cool overlays that the Firefly team here worked on. Massive shout out to them making those cool graphics that we were able to share, and thanks to the NSF team as well, who were supporting us in the background. But that's going to go ahead and cue in the replays. Morgan, you did fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Excellent. We will catch you next time, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you nerds later. Maybe we'll see them right now.
Maybe we'll continue to see them.
I don't know.
Guess we're going
lead system is armed.
Vehicle has transitioned to autonomous mode. We are go for launch. 3, 2, 1. Ascent operations will continue on CD1.
T plus 1 minute. Max Q.
Rico. Stage separation.
Bearing separation confirmed.